Well, good morning, everybody. This is unusual for me to be on so early in the morning, but I also don't usually come on Friday, but I'm so happy to be with you all today. Thank you for coming to Reach the Unlimited. I am muted and it didn't have to do that. Yay. And I see the chats. Sorry, I have to rejoice at these moments. But anyway, thank you everybody for being here. And this is going to be a great conversation today about spiritually led women-owned businesses. And if you really have to freak out and worry about so many things that we have to do as we're doing business. So I would like to welcome my guest, Judith. As you know, this is not normal for me to have an in-person live show. I'm so excited. I've done this one time before. This is my second, but this is fun. Thank you for being here.
It's awesome. She's in Texas.
I'm in Texas.
Come all the way to Texas in small town Georgetown. So it's awesome.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. You came to me.
I did. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody? Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Judith Manriquez. I have consulting business where I help spiritual entrepreneurs, women, grow their business. And I tend to focus on highly spiritual women, highly awake women who have a body of work, who are working out how to share it in the world in a way that feels good for them. So it is about business. We do work that's in business at the intersection of where your soul says, let's go. And so we will do everything from business work to developing your spiritual gifts. And really, frankly, those two things are always tied together, right? When you have your own business, it's more like, how do I become more awake and have a business? How do I have a more challenging spiritual journey and wake up more? But that's what I do. And I tend to be very geeky about business and equally geeky about spiritual stuff.
And they both go very beautifully together. I'm sorry, while we're talking, I'm going to turn off my notifications, which I should have done. But it's really important that we do have both of them together, because when we do that, then we're going to find that things run a lot smoother and easier, because we were just talking before about how a lot of people, we're all psychic and we don't realize. So I'm just going to jump right into this.
Yeah, let's go, girl.
Clearly, we're all psychic, but we don't always know that we are being psychic. Like, if you don't understand what that means or what that feels like, then you may not understand what's happening to you. I need to be looking at the camera, not my computer. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because that really does influence choices that we make or how we feel about things. And especially in today's world, there's so many pressures in running a business, or so many things that we feel that we want to do or feel like we have to do to run a business. But when we're actually working from our psychic being, then a lot of these things feel uncomfortable. They don't feel good to us because they don't fit the paradigm to today's world.
Yeah, so let's connect the dots, right? So this is what I see. I see women who have businesses who really love their work, really, like, they just know they can help someone else improve their life in some way, transform their life in some way. And then, but for reasons they cannot explain, because they're doing the right things or because they're putting a lot of time in, their business isn't growing like they want it to grow. They don't feel happy. They might feel overwhelmed. Like, there's all these things. And, we start talking through what's going on, and 9 times out of 10, they're highly sensitive, often, I will say emotional, or they feel a lot. And what that often means is that they have, I always call them, you have spidey senses, like you're feeling different things. You have a way of knowing answers. You have a way of feeling others. Highly empathic is another huge one. And the reason their business isn't working is that they're not paying attention to the way they sense the world and others, and what feels good for them.
Right.
And then the question is, okay, well, if this feels bad, whatever process, the email list building practices or selling practices, or how do I price my things? If that feels bad, then what do I do? How do I get where I want to go? How do I listen to these senses that I have and get where I want to go? And so those are psychic. I say you're psychic. And I've told my client, have you thought that maybe you're psychic? And that's just so foreign. They don't think, oh, that's psychic. Well, you're highly empathic.
Right.
That's actually psychic.
Right.
you know things without knowing how you know things. That's actually a psychic skill. Some people, they will feel it in their body, right? So, but they never think to look at those senses to guide them in their business.
And that's important. And I feel like a lot of our viewers understand this kind of language because, for one, you're watching me, which I'm into that kind of world. And a lot of the people that are watching me came from people that do tarot cards and whatnot. So, but if you didn't understand some of the maybe triggers to or ways to know that you are psychic, you've mentioned them. What would an empath really be? What does that mean to be an empath?
Empaths will in some way sense somebody else's feelings. And so, okay, this is interesting because I know your audience. Like I'm very much into tarot, and so are my clients. Like they'll go to tarot readers or they'll have readers or they'll be into astrology or numerology, but it never makes the connection for them that they are too.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And so if I say to them, because they'll talk to me about working with their clients and how they can feel what that client needs. I'm like, okay, well, you're feeling what that client needs. Yeah, you're empath. Oh yeah. Yeah. People have told me I'm empathic. Okay. Well, that's a skill you can work with. Right. That's a sense that can be developed and you can pay attention to, and you probably have others. So
exactly. Because it is about feeling outside of yourself and being aware of the fact that you're bringing in or feeling the energies that are coming into you from outside of yourself. But being able to use that as like one of your superpowers is really what we're talking about in your business, and being able to own that in your business. That's important.
Yeah, it is important. And so what I was thinking as you're saying that is that, you know, when you're empathic and you're sensitive and you're one of the clairs, right? And you don't have, either you're unaware of it or you're not really developing those skills. And I think this also applies to your audience. So if you're already a tarot reader, if you're into some sort of metaphysical or mystical arts, and maybe you haven't looked at your situation from a turn it on its side sort of perspective. So one of the things that I don't think we are all, any of us, really aware enough of is the degree to which the higher vibration energies that are coming on the planet are actually shifting everything for us. It's like we're now tilted on our axis with everything, whether it's business, it's how you engage with people, it's how you feel in your body, it's how you're eating, like everything is shifted. How do you operate in this whole new world? And you and I have more skills, right? Because we spend time in the metaphysical realm. But if you don't spend a lot of time in the metaphysical realm, if it's sort of more of, I'll just go out there and get a reading from somebody, then they don't have the tools or the awareness or the putting the pieces together. And so when it comes to your business, how do you begin to look at marketing from a more unity consciousness, right? That's how do you grow your email list when really no one wants to be on email lists, right?
Exactly. Or you're led to it by some kind of like dangling treat. You know, I'm going to get this, and then you don't want to be on that list anymore, and you take the time or don't take the time to come off it. I mean, email lists are definitely a love-hate relationship. And but the beauty of it is that we have power to choose. So talk a little bit about how, let's do email lists, because I know that's a big one where people are always saying, grow your email list. That's how you get the word out about who you are and what you're serving. How do you work with that in a way that's not quite so stressful or pushy?
Well, let's apply the principles, right? So we'll apply universal principles, which is all about attraction, right? So you get to the place where your email list is the way that you relate to or have conversations with people who want to be close in your circle. If you can think of it from that perspective, which is often really kind of mental, right? How do I think of these abstract people and have a relationship with them? You know, what I'm seeing a lot more of is people who will send a personal notice every time somebody joins a list. So they'll literally go to their personal email and send a welcome. I'm happy to meet you. What kind of questions do you have? Why did you join my list? Kind of thing. That's very personal. I'm seeing a lot of people who are not using opt-ins anymore, but simply saying, if you want to get in the circle of what I'm offering, then please join my list. This is what you can expect. So I think there's a lot more integrity in list building.
Yeah.
For smaller businesses, right? For the personal one-on-ones. When you have a larger operation, you think, okay, well, I can't use those practices, right? Because I have too many people. But why do we think that everything's like we see with the funnel building types of things? I was listening to a podcast with a woman who has been interviewed a lot on traditional media. She's a sleep coach, and most of her clients are not on her list. Wow. She's making healthy beyond 6 figures, and her clients don't want to be on her email list. They call her. They don't want people to know they have sleep issues. They don't want to be on an email list. They'd rather have a personal relationship with her.
And that's important because I think that, we get caught up in what would be the collective, which is big. And especially when it comes into the business world, and a lot of people that do watch the show as well are pretty much entrepreneur type people. And so we don't have to get caught in that big collective that we can control because a lot of that is still based on a fear-based kind of growing your business. So we don't have to join that. We have options.
It's true.
And I love the fact that people who want to come to you will come to you.
Yes, we forget that.
Yeah.
As long as we're lined up, and your email list is what you do because you want to do it because it's part of your business practices.
Right.
So I've been spending a lot of time on that mindset. I'm like, well, I get to invent my business. So do you, right? So you've decided in your business that you want to have regular weekly video interviews. That's a solid component of your business. Does it make you money directly? No, you enjoy it. It's expansive for you, but that's part of the core of your business.
Right.
Do you want regular email communications to be part of your core of your business? Yes or no? Maybe parts of it. Maybe I'll do new moon emails. There is no set rule. And I keep thinking through what do I want my set core practices and business to be? Because often mine are so personal that I could email my handful of people that are my core, but then that doesn't keep me into a larger picture. Because I'd like to offer, I want to be able to have information and services that are available for people that might never want to actually be my client, but it's an awareness that they hadn't thought of.
And that's the beauty of, I think in the new way that we're looking at business, it's not about doing it the old way, it's doing it your way. And for me, I do this because I'm getting my word out. I'm trying to make awareness to things that need to change or ideas, but that doesn't mean that, the rest of my business isn't important. Exactly. It's just another part of it it's a service-oriented gift that you're helping.
Yes.
To spread across the world.
Yeah. But I think too, that this is what you do when you do this is a core of your business. That is it's like the hot ember at the center that's about service and caring and expansion and exposing people to new ideas. And that reflects, it's like everything else will go around that beautiful.
Right.
It's the spark inside of it all.
Yeah. It's like the center, that yummy center that you get, and then you expand out, which is, I guess the real point to this conversation too, is helping people to understand that you don't have to be in the paradigm of the past, that we can be in the new and understand that there's always a different way to do things, and we just have to explore it. Exactly. What are the things that are really important to you, or what are the things that you really want or value out of your business? And people like you, because you've helped me a lot in being able to see outside the box.
Yes.
And that's really what it's all about, is seeing outside the box. So emails are a big one. People have really, I hate going through my umpteen million emails and you unsubscribe and then it's back again or whatever goes on. But there's other parts of running a business where we can look at it differently. What would be the next thing that people could think about?
So you've got, I was trying to think, where do I want to go with that? Habits.
Oh, big.
I want to go to habits. I would say that the number one thing that keeps any one of my clients stuck is habitual behavior or thoughts or emotions around something. And it can be the habitual thought or belief that you have around selling. It can be the habitual thought or belief you have in marketing. see often somebody who's telling me, well, I really, really want this thing. Like, I really want to have more clients and I want to sign more people up for my coaching program. And then they have a habitual thought that stops them, which is, people won't pay for it. I can't find them. Nobody's interested. It takes them a long time to convert. And actually, none of those things are truths.
Right.
They're your energetic
Blueprint
habit that you've built for yourself. And changing that habit is often what takes the longest time. Doesn't have to, but it requires shifting out of that and just allowing. Because what I find is, whenever we have built a habit around that, we want to keep putting more and more attention to it, which creates it stronger and stronger. And stopping that pattern means trying something else entirely.
I've really had that on my radar lately, especially because we are creatures of habit. And it takes a lot for us to be able to break that paradigm and come out of that. And so my phrase now is, I don't give a blank. Whatever you want in there. I know what my word is there. But it's because in our society, again, we're so pulled to what's acceptable or what's right or what we think is right. That's not always the truth. And so it's funny, because I was just listening to a podcast yesterday about, if I didn't worry about, or if I didn't care about, what would I do? And there's so many things in our life that we keep ourselves from doing. And that's one of them. Like, because when you were saying about some of the things that keep us going forward, it's all worthiness, right? It's, if you just had trust in your ability, which, I'm working on that one, then we would care. But we do care. And it's always about what's going on around us or our past or whatever. And if we could just put, I don't give a, well, put in the comments, you guys, what would you do if you just didn't give a, because that's a big one that holds us back. And it's usually a belief system that we are living by.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And then the question is, how do you stop giving a, you know what I mean? Awareness. Because every time you think about it from a business place, you're thinking, well, I didn't get the clients I wanted, or I didn't get the money I wanted, or I didn't get the visibility I wanted. And so then we say, well, don't give a flip. Yeah. And they're like, but how do I pay my bills? How do I, right? Yes. So the tool that I like to use is human design. And you know this, right? Because we've talked about this before, but human design, I find really beautiful, especially for soul-led people, because the way I understand it is, your soul came into your body and it has given you some clues about how to stay in alignment when you're stuck on things like that. And everybody has a way of deciding that isn't mental or emotional, like, it's not these old habits. How do you slip into what's naturally your own way of creating to override these habitual patterns and habits and thoughts and fears? And it's a nice little, like, change tracks kind of approach to whatever's moving you, sticking you.
I think I've asked you this before, but how is human design different than your astrology?
Human design is a system that was downloaded onto the planet in 1987, and it is a marriage of astrology and the I Ching. So it combines Eastern and Western. So there is a lot of astrology in it. So you can see all the symbols and signs, and the movement of the astrology will affect your human design. The same concept is true.
Hi, Susan. It's like, somebody showed up. Hey, Susan's here.
Susan, be sure and ask questions. We'll go down the line. So timely. I would say that they are different because human design gives me something that I don't usually get from astrology, because astrology was my first thing from when I was a little kid, actually. But human design, it makes it so simple. You know your strategy and you know your authority. That's it. If you know your strategy, it tells you how you're designed to create in the world. And if you know your authority, it tells you how you're designed to make decisions. So if you make decisions according to the way you're designed to create, then everything keeps lining up in synchronicity. That is my desired place. Like, the planets can keep moving wherever they want to. You can have different astrological aspects coming and going. But as long as I listen to the way I'm designed to make decisions and follow my particular creation style, which is what they call strategy, then everything should continue to move forward in that beautiful, like, Abraham Hicks says, you know, like
Yeah.
you're on your flying disc, law of
Right.
attraction, beautiful manifestations. That's where I'm aiming.
And that's important because I like that it gives you both. And I know for, it's like we can change things about us, but it takes a long time. Sorry, I thought my battery was going to go dead. We can change a lot of things, but unless we have the tools and the know-how, it's going to take a lot longer. And these are tools that will help us to be able to short circuit it.
Yes, that's
which
like
is
make it
really,
easier and faster.
Yeah, really
Exactly.
important. The other thing I was thinking when you were talking about how to change things or the way things are going is that, you have this idea of what needs to be done, and we put pressure on ourselves to do what is in mainstream. And that's one of the, I'm kind of going backwards because this is something that's not leaving me. So I feel like it needs to be reset. That you need to understand that you don't have to be brought into that consciousness of not enough time, fear-based, all those things. That's what's happening in the consciousness of the universe, where we can change that. So one of the things I really wanted to stress here is don't feel like you have to be pulled to what so many other big time marketer, like there's so many of them that are doing the funnels that you talked about, a lot of the other kinds of marketing tools, that's the only way that you can go forward. There are other ways. And I really want to emphasize that again, because I'm a big one too. That's like, it's like this shiny thing that's kind of like leading you through, because they talk with such power, with evidence that this is what's going to work. But what you and I talked about a lot is companies that are doing the old way of thinking, which, I'm a part of a group right now that's doing the old way of thinking that's not going to work anymore. So that's why having this conversation about there's other ways to do things is really important.
Yes, absolutely. And the old way of thinking is simplistically explained as this: if you do A, you can create B. And we all know, if I've done A, it sure is hard getting to the B. Like if I do the email list, if I do the ads, if I do the, put my prices this way, if I do this funnel, why isn't B happening? Well, because it's an illusion, right? You can't from action A create a defined and always consistent result B. If you're not feeling, if you're not in alignment with what is good for you and allowing that to come through.
And, I have another business that I run, and we always did it. We started it out doing marketing like you would have normally have done, but it wasn't in alignment to the way that we work. So what we ended up doing was doing more word of mouth kind of things. And that's the way we've solely run our business. In essence, that's what we're talking about here. It's not about having to, because I always am being bombarded with, do this or come be with me on that or whatever. I have the magic thing that's going to make you $1 million. We're doing fine in what we're doing, but it's because I stuck to the integrity. And that's what we're talking about here too, is not following those shiny things or feeling like you have to do something or you're going to get lost. It's about trusting. Like you always talk to me about, going out and talking to people, going out and asking them if I can, help them in this way, or using your voice, which is basically getting to know who I am and how I work, which I'm coming out more and more, because that's coming from fear too, that we don't do that. So we have an idea of what we want, the business that we want to create and how we want to do it, but yet we hide behind ourselves because we're too afraid to come out.
Yes, that's true. Or the other thing that I see is I see people who think they want something.
Oh, yes.
But the thing they want the reason they're not getting there, when we spend time like, well, you say you want this thing, but you're not doing all the things that would get you there. And if you spend some time in that energy of, okay, why is that? It's often because it's really not what they want.
Exactly.
And they've had a really long experience in their life of not ever giving themselves the permission to do what they want. So let's pretend you have a business. You don't want to send emails every week. You just don't want to, period. It's not going to be you. You're just not gonna. And because you don't feel like you're free to do that because everyone says you need to, then that becomes like a little hiccup, and you're just not. So then everything else you do, you're working from this place of, I'm not really doing what I need to be doing to grow my business. So that's why it's not working.
That's right. I'm reading your comment. I'll come back to that in a minute, Susan, because I'm yeah, it's farther, my computer where I can read is farther away, so I have to lean in. That's interesting because even people do that, and I've done that. And I really want to address that, because what's happening is that's not wrong. And we can easily go to what's wrong with me. We've had things where I should do something or whatever. And Susan actually and I were just talking a little while ago. It's about going back to, we were talking about this, going back to when you were in school and you had to do your work done.
Yes.
You had your homework or whatever assignment, you didn't get it done. And so we have that in our brain of that fear of, I didn't get it done, I'm a failure or whatever. When in reality, it's just a form of being able to tap into what really is you that you've never known before. And like through my process, I've realized the direction I originally was going to go is not the direction I really wanted to go. And that's okay.
It is okay. And you don't really determine it until you try the first one to find the next one to get more clarity as you move along. And I see this over and over with different clients who have enormous bodies of work too, who've been working for a long time, and they come to me and I'm like, how do I put all this together and structure it? I want this desired outcome.
Right.
And they feel like they have to do it this way. Right. I'm like, whoa, but that doesn't feel like you.
Right.
Given all the things you do and how you work, let's try to rearrange all these things, and those things will get you there probably faster and with much more joy than the thing that the process you think you need to follow.
Because we don't have to live a life of push-pull. That was our parents' time period.
Right.
Well, that's funny. That was the 3G time period.
The 3D. Yeah.
3D, not G. Now we're not in that time period. Now we can go through life because things that are supposed to come to us are going to come to us. We just have to go through the flow. But the other point of what I originally said too is that when we're not doing something, that's when you as a person stop and breathe into, is this something that is a fear? Is this something that I'm having to work through before I'm going to get? And we've had that a lot with me where I'm doing something and I don't do it for weeks. And then all of a sudden I've worked through the fear, because it's not like I'm ignoring it. I just have to process it in a different way. Exactly. And I guess the biggest topic to hear is don't be hard on yourself. Be kind and loving, because you're not going to do it wrong. You're going to get to the other side.
Yes.
It's all going to work out, but be kind to yourself and allow yourself to be aware and present through the process you're going through, because you're teaching yourself something.
Right.
As you're traveling through that.
Absolutely. Be kind to yourself.
That's really big.
Yep.
So there's some people that feel like, they're really still in the now and in the push-pull time period where they have this, I have to do. Somebody's starting or wanting to start a business. They're wanting to get going. How would they start something like that? What are good steps to get people to come out of that fear, to start realizing and embracing their dream?
That's a good question. Where do I start? So you start with what your desire, your dream, and you're catching some comments here. Yes, so I don't know if
I am. I'm looking. Go ahead, keep talking.
I think what I'd like to share with everyone is something that I'm personally learning after having done this in all kinds of different ways. So I did traditional business and marketing, bricks and mortar back when the internet was getting started, and then went solo and have done a lot more digital and gone to a lot more of the spiritual approach to how do you do how do you feel your way through business. And I'm super empathic. I know a lot of people are, and there's this thing that I work on with my clients, because I think that almost everyone I work with is empathic. But when you're empathic, one of the things we learn as children is we learn how to go out into other people and engage where they're at and try to help them out, right? So when you're starting a business, we implement those same patterns. And so when we're starting a business, you're using your empath skills, your little sensing spidey sense skills to go out there and see, what are people going to need or want? And that's the fastest way to derail yourself to creating your business. And so when you want to create a business, you have to get clear on what you want. Don't worry about the niching and who is for yet. Get clear about what you want from it. What is it for you first? How do you want to spend your time? How do you want to engage with clients? What times of the day do you want to work? And what I usually say, when you've gotten clear about what you want to be doing, what you want, then imagine sitting in a room with a group of people and you have to hang out with these people. And I usually say, okay, pick 8 to 10 people you're going to spend 24 hours with nonstop. You want to enjoy every single minute of that time. You don't want to have to translate anything about how you naturally would want to talk. Those are your clients. And if you start with that place and know, this is what I want to do, and I want to be doing it with these people that I can sit in a room with all day long, then you have the basis of your business. And then the third thing I would say to do, that is something I'm working on right now, is that when I started building my business, I'm always, for some reason, and this is where I'm kind of going to language that's about energy, like what we were talking about, psychic stuff. I'm always feeling, I've been paying attention to, well, where is my business? My business is out there somewhere. And what I've done recently is I've taken that business that appears to be outside. If I imagine where my energy field is, my business has been outside my energy field, and I keep trying to feel for it and what naturally wants to come. And what I've done is I've taken my business that's out here, out beyond my energy field, and I've pulled it into my energy field. And when I did that, I could see it easier. Like I had a sense of what it looked like. And I thought, oh my gosh, you poor pathetic little thing. It's like, you're in this weird shape. And so I just told my energy field, make that thing flow better. Like, that's just not even, it's not symmetrical. It has, I was like, oh, and I just said, all right, fix it. Like, it needs to feel better is basically. And then I went about my way, because my mind was trying to like, well, how would I redo this? And I was like, okay, no more mind. I'm gonna let it go. It's energy. It's all energy. And then I came back to it, and the thing that was in my field, if I had to imagine it, again, part of sensing and seeing, it's all kind of imagination, right? I don't see something. It felt like it was swirling now. It wasn't a thing, like this weird shape. And so it started swirling, and I've been like, okay, well, I don't know what that means to me yet at all. I have no understanding. And then,
can I interject really fast for you guys to really understand this? You're not forcing this energy.
No,
you're
I'm not.
allowing it to flow, which is so unusual for us to do, because what you said about, I need to arrange it. That's was all where mental. I would, and you're right, it's about going to the head. So I really hope that you guys, this will help you to know that energy that comes in is something that is the potential, but that can change because we have free will. And if we're not forcing it, then our energy will work together. Our highest good will work together with that energy to create
exactly
what it is we want. So I just really wanted to point out that you didn't force that. You allowed it.
I allowed it. And I'm very deliberately wanting to create from my high self.
I lost her.
She may have gotten off, but I want to create from my high self, right? So I don't want to be the small person here trying to create into the world. I want to be the full potential of who I am creating into the world. I want to pull that power, that energy through me to create, because I really believe if I do that, then I'm creating more in perfection with what everyone needs, including me.
Right.
So since I don't really know how to do that, really, like there's not a guidebook besides the stuff I've studied, but even then that's all feel it, go into meditation, let it unfold. Okay, well, this is what I'm doing, just bring this into my field. Now this thing that was a shape that was swirling is actually has a core in it that I can feel like it's this large core, and there's something moving slowly around the outside of it. And I'm like, okay, eventually I expect that what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to feel it and feel guidance, like, oh, this is the next step. And I do get some little intuitive sort of feelings of, this would be helpful for me to change on my website. This would be helpful for me to offer on a regular basis. And I'm letting that sit and see, is it something I want to do? Will I enjoy it?
And that's an important for all of us, because, and for all of you that wonder why we looked at the screen, I lost YouTube. So if you're talking, I'm not seeing it. So please put your chats in there, your comments in there, your questions in there. We will get back to it. But right now I'm not going to deviate to that. But for some reason I lost the connection and YouTube is gone. So Just had to put that out there. But it's important because what we need to do is become more aware, the real awareness that when we're pushing, when we're trying to force something to happen, because I feel like you really were kind of going into the Akashic records of potential in the future. And that's where we need to be, because we never know how things are going to change. And if we're trying to do it from our own, I think, humanness, that's where we're going to get those hiccups and those glitches, where we can just allow it to unfold. And the word that came to me, which is one that I have been seeing a lot, is just really surrendering, to allowing your higher self to take you through the process of where you're going to go, instead of our humanness that has these limitations, which is what I'm really good at, to allow this thing to unfold. And then we don't have that anxiety and that depression and that fear and that, because I love the word that I think is overused, feeling stuck. It's not about feeling stuck. It's about you holding yourself back from really expanding into the fullness of who, like you said, unfolding. Our life unfolds as we allow it to do that. And so if we could just sit back and be in that allowing and in that kind of like flow, then we're not going to be stuck.
No, we won't be stuck, and we don't have to worry about the how.
Yes,
it creates itself. It shows up, and then you're like, oh, this is perfect. I couldn't have thought of that.
And it seems so counterintuitive.
Exactly. That's why it seems so challenging. Yeah.
And we're all going to go through that. We're all going to have those moments, but it's being aware of it and being able to stop yourself from that and accept the fact that it is going to be okay. And that's a process of learning, because we will have our good days and our bad days of,
yes,
no, I need to control this bus.
Yes. And, I kind of feel like I want to share with everybody that we're talking about this as two solopreneurs, right? Two small businesses. But I have been in corporate, like moderate, and worked for corporates before, not directly, but through a smaller business. And I'm always fascinated by the way that what we're doing at this small level is going to, and is actually affecting the collective consciousness, and how corporates are going to shift their business too. So this idea that we want to stay in integrity and do what feels good and is right for you and for the whole planet, and that we want to not force sales or not force people to do something they don't want to do, but it's more of an invitation. Watching how that's going to ripple into the larger enterprises on our planet, about doing things that are truly good for everybody.
Have you started to see a ripple effect happening?
I think that's been going on for years. So way back, I used to do public affairs. And at that time, we were wrestling with corporations who wanted to get involved, like make changes to policy. We were wrestling them to be good corporate citizens, which at that time meant, are you not supporting nonprofits? Like, are you giving back to the community? How are you supporting volunteers? How are you giving to the, back then it was the United Way. Like now we have so many choices, but we would wrestle them to the ground with, you can't just be this corporate thing that you can just go muscle your way around. You have to actually ethically do good and ethically support your employees who are actually out there doing volunteer work. Well, can't you organize this? And now that's a foregone conclusion, man. Absolutely. Everybody uses that. And so that was like, I think the first opening step to realizing, oh, it's a two-way relationship. The other thing that I'm seeing that I think is so affirming is the rise of companies that are following B Corp principles. So where they care about everything from the source of their product to the end, the trash, basically. And they're looking at, I love the companies like Beauty Counter, which I'm a big fan of, but it's like REI and Patagonia and these companies that care about, where are my ingredients? Where are my source materials coming from? What is it like for the person who's creating my source materials? What's happening to the earth? How are we treating the earth? And then they follow it all, the entire supply chain, all the way to, what am I doing with my trash? What happens with the product when it leaves my shelves and someone buys it? What do they do with it when it stops working? And that to me is full consciousness for a corporation. And we're seeing them be much more conscious. And I think the consumer is expecting more consciousness in their business.
It's still a slow climb, I think, like, especially in the beauty. And I'm a big proponent of knowing what you're doing, because you're putting this stuff on your biggest organ of your entire body, which is your skin. And we need to know what's in that. Like, I had a situation where I just took my granddaughter to the dentist, and he wanted her to, I'm still struggling with this one, but he wanted her to use fluoride toothpaste because she's got weak enamel. And so I asked him, how is this? We have a star cat over here. Whoops. I asked him about how this was going to affect her. How is this going to affect her body? How what are the side effects? Because I didn't know what was in it when he wanted her to use this toothpaste. It was like, how is this going to affect her body? What are the side effects? He's like, he looked at me like a deer in headlights. Like, what?
He didn't know.
What the heck are you even talking about? This is going to help her teeth. This is what she needs to do. And I'm like, you just kind of dismiss that. But the point is that I think there's still a lot that take those things for granted, and there's some that are not. But we are becoming overall as a more conscious and aware consumer, which is definitely going to force. I mean, it's the same as how you want to run your business, how you do your purchasing. You're more aware of where your money's going or what's going to happen.
Yes.
In all aspects of it. And that's very important to, I think, the future. Especially future generations. Be aware.
Yeah. I think that's happening, but again, it's happening in waves, right? So it doesn't happen en masse. We all have different levels of consciousness, and it reaches out to different people, and we're seeing that at all levels.
Absolutely.
I think that when you're a solo entrepreneur, though, when you're out on your own by yourself, you're like a person who's really sick. I know it's a strange comparison, but when you're really, really sick and things aren't working, you start trying everything. You're willing to consider alternative therapies. You're willing to look at things you hadn't been willing to look at before. When you're a solo entrepreneur, you've already said, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. Let me look at all the field of possibilities, because then I have more options available to me. And that's the reason you went solo. You wanted more options. Generally, you wanted more freedom. You wanted more options. You wanted to try things that weren't available. You wanted something that felt better about work than when you were employed someplace else. So we're more likely and more naturally inclined to look at what's possible, what else is possible, and how can we create what we really want. It doesn't have to look like what I didn't want to be in.
And it's an adjustment, because I know, even with me, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years. And even today, when you hear people like, oh, the can'ts and the impossibilities and the struggles and the challenges, and I'm like, am I supposed to feel that way? I mean, we could easily be drawn into the doubts. Like, it's not possible. Like, I'm going from one company to another company. And I think because you're in that vulnerability time where you hear it more, you're like more vulnerable to that, about the impossibilities to something. And you really have to be set and true to yourself that this is the right path for you, and not listen to the naysayers, the opinionated people around you, because there's going to be a lot of them. But I think that goes through at almost any change or choice that we make in our life. That duality of facing, what do you really want? Because waking up can be, kind of, it can be shocking.
Going out on your own can be shocking.
Yes, all of it.
Going against anything that has been the norm for you in your life is challenging, because you're having to break down so many beliefs and habits of thought and what's right versus what's wrong. So yes, I agree.
And it isn't for everybody. Not all of us came here to be entrepreneurs. That doesn't make it right or wrong. But if you are starting a business or thinking about starting a business, I think we've hit some really important information and helpful tips to help you get through that. Because I think a lot of people that I've worked with and I've talked to, they are entrepreneurs at heart. But they have this old mentality of, I need to be in the, whatever you want to call it, workforce, and I don't have the capabilities of being able to step out on my own. It does take a lot of courage and a lot of it takes a lot of courage to do it.
Yes, you have to be willing to handle a lot more risk.
Right.
So there's something, You have to be able to handle a lot more risk until you create the stability you desire,
mhm.
or you create the stability bucket and then you slowly bring something else in, so that you can handle that. And a lot of us, I think if this is not always true, but a lot of women, especially when you have children, that really triggers for them.
Yes.
I don't want to go back to work, and they didn't necessarily have like a safety net to help them in that period. Plus they have a child, plus they're starting a business.
Right.
And so there's a lot of extra stuff we carry at that point in time when we realize, okay, I need to find a way to make a living that doesn't involve working for someone else that constricts my time and putting my child in daycare, right? So I think that that's what sort of starts it all. But yes, they're more willing to land in the land of risk. Take for the reward, the payoff of being able to stay with my kid. They'll try more things.
It's a process. I mean, for me, it was like, I'm just fed up with, being under somebody else's thumb all the time. And my whole life is dictated by somebody. I mean, I have control issues anyway.
Freedom. There we go. It's like the big word, freedom. I'm free to do what I want to. I have control over my time. I have control over my decisions. It's also about worth. So one of the reasons I did was, I'm a workaholic. Like I will work because I enjoy it. I love working, and I would do this for employers who did not appreciate it. Either my salary was far less than other people, or they then expect more the more you do. It's like, it's like, no, I'm more valuable. So if I'm going to work this hard, I'd rather do it just for me.
And I think that's a really good tip too. If you're a workaholic, if you're doing things that are constantly helping other people to go forward. I mean, I was definitely in that. I was doing everything that would help somebody else to move forward, but I wasn't doing it for myself. And if I'm putting all that energy in helping somebody else to do that, then why am I not doing that for myself? And that's when you start, you start asking questions like that. That's when you know that it's time for you to think about, what is it that I can do for me? Because you definitely have a gift or a jewel that's ready to be birthed. It's ready to come out.
Absolutely.
How would somebody start? I mean, I know what we talked about, but how would they unfold what that is, even?
The gift of what they have to give.
Okay, I'm doing all these things and I'm burning myself out. How would I know where to even begin to know what it is I love to do?
The easiest way to do that one, because I've had to answer this question before. A gift of mine is being able to kind of sense somebody's purpose. And for everyone listening who's looking for that, my big thing in the world, not everyone has one that way. Okay. So I'm going to tell everyone, you all don't have that, I'm here to, do this big, massive thing. We're just not made that way. What you are here to do is share your energy. Like your soul has a beautiful energy tone that it's here to contribute amazing things to other people. And we just don't understand what it is up here in our minds. So when you want to start a business and you're like, where do I start? Where's my gift? Where do I find it? Know that first and foremost, it's your energy, right? Your energy wants to go into the world, and someone else needs your energy. They need to be around you. That's all it is. And in that, your soul exchanges with the other soul what they came here to agree to, and it's way beyond our understandings, right? So that's my first belief. And I hands down believe that's what happens. So what you do when you're engaging with that other person, so you have soul to soul time, basically, is purely your joy.
That's a big one.
It's purely your joy. And if you can't figure out how to turn your joy into something that's concrete enough, mentally concrete enough, here's how you do it. You go sit down with your best friend or your two best friends, and you're like, what is it that you see me doing all the time that I do so easily that I don't even notice? Turn that into a job for yourself. I mean, it's like literally that simple. Your best friends will so tell you, oh, but you do this, this, and this so easy. Like you don't even notice you do it. That is the gift you have to share with the world.
And I've said this before, I started Reach the Unlimited based on me sitting down going, I need to do something. What is it that I really love to do? What do I do all the time? What do people always tell me? Oh, you do this. Well, one of them was talking. I love to talk to people. And I talk all the time, and I can talk forever.
That's amazing. See what she can do there? I can't do. Like sitting down to talk to a camera. I don't have any problem talking to a camera, right? So I can talk to a camera, but for me, my talking comes through engagement. always.
Uh-huh.
And so what's fascinating to me is learning how to create for myself opportunities to have the engagement. So for me, the way I'm reworking that, so we'll give like a mental thought process about how to apply this to business. Like there are so many beautiful people in the world that can sit down and do full-on webinars and teach you like all this stuff. Like I love some people, I follow them. I'm like, I can do that, except I actually have the skill set to do it, but it's not natural for me.
Right.
But the people that I most love, it's natural for them. Like you're natural at this. What's natural for me is when I have somebody else asking questions or they become the object that calls forth the wisdom that comes through me. Right? So then as I look at webinars, or if I look at a structure for myself, what I'm working on right now is, I think what I'm going to do is just go to a really kind of old-fashioned Q&A, and I will have a traditional, twice a month, I will have an open door Q&A.
Oh, I love that.
So people can show up and ask their business questions. And in that moment, when they're seeking clarity or how to implement, those are like two big places people get stuck. Like, I'm not clear about this. What's my purpose? What direction do I take? How do I make this happen? And then the steps. For me, every person, you could come to me with the exact same question as that person, with the exact same coaching situation, whatever. And for me, when I hear the two of you, I'm like, oh, you need to do these three things, and you need to do this way. Like there will be totally different, because that's how it works for me. But it's the showing up part that activates my voice and my talking. Right. So,
and for me, the same thing. I actually do better in this kind of style, in a conversational style, interview style, than for me just to talk to the screen. I feel like I go kind of flat at that point, because I'm not, you're building on that energy. But the way that we got there was to pay attention to what it was that really makes us happy. And one of the questions that I ask people all the time, because sometimes we get stuck in our own head as adults. We're like, oh, but we have all these stereotypical things or societal, kind of restrictions or ideas, is I ask you to go back to, what did you love to do when you were 5? Because when you were 5, that was your like real connection time period, where you didn't have all of these things around you. Sometimes you did have like family dramas or whatever, which could kind of shut that down, but you still had that flicker still of what it was.
It was often a feeling, like a feeling tone, or a like emotional feeling tone. Yes.
And even at 5, I still was a talker.
Oh, see, there you go.
So
I know I asked a lot of questions. My mom said I asked a lot of questions. I was a big question, which is true. I still ask a lot of questions. And I ask them of the universe. It's just more like, why do things work this way? And why does it have to be this way? And if we do it this way, isn't there another way? And like, I'm always like questioning, how could this be shifted in some way to be more expansive or beneficial or help more people, or like, that doesn't work for everyone. So how would we?
Right. And asking questions, that's a big one too, is asking questions. But we all do have that thing inside of us, that gift that we are here to bring to the world. And we are doing it, whether we think we are or not. We are doing it
all the time.
But when we become more aware and more connected to it, that's when the real fun begins. That's when you can really explore and figure out how that can best serve you when you're feeling into that.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Totally.
So you have worked with a lot of people that are starting businesses, are running businesses, are successful at running businesses. What is the one thread that you think kind of holds through to everybody?
Oh, that's a great question.
I love it when people say that. That's
great.
If I can get at least 2 of those in a call or talk.
In terms of my people, or as in general?
Like that you've experienced, as you've, that you've gone through. I feel like people have a general, like, one thing overall. We all have our own individual uniquenesses. So
people who end up coming to work with me are working on their mastery. And that's a very interesting way to put words to it, but it's a tone of energy, and they can be starting a business like brand new in the field, or they can have been doing this for 30 years, but there is a degree to which all of them, no matter what path they're on, they are here holding an energy for the planet where it feels to me, and they have had the experiences in their life where they're holding it for a much larger group of people. And their work doesn't have to be like on the stage, millions of people, but the way that they are role modeling for others, or changing the way, or introducing people to stuff that they wouldn't have considered, that is, I think, what kind of puts them in the field of what I call mastery. But it's often for them a feeling of like, often feeling like no one else gets them, no one else really understands. And it's true, because the thing that they're doing is often quite unusual from their perspective. Like, people looking at them may not feel it, but they really are changing a paradigm within the world.
You know, you've mentioned this twice, maybe 3 times, but I know twice, where you've talked about not all of us are here for the bigger picture, not to be like a big, you know, I'm going to be this big powerhouse on the stage speaker. I think a lot of us, I'm not going to say everyone thinks this, but a lot of us do feel like that's what's going to make me have purpose. That's what's going to make me really make a point, make a difference. And I love what you said about mastery, because that's really an important thing. It's not about whether we come to be this big famous person or not. It's about that we came to make an imprint. We made some kind of difference in the world in our way. And all of us are going to do that differently. And I think when we start projecting into either the fame, the bigness, the importance, because we put importance on that.
Yes, we do.
When that's not really what's all important. It's as we even know in nature, it's those subtle changes that make the biggest difference in the overall nature kingdom. And that's what we need to remember, that each and every person here has a purpose and has a plan for the future generations to move forward as we continue in the growth of humanity.
Yes, exactly. And if you think about it, so there's different degrees and different levels. Like, let's take Wayne Dyer. I mean, he produced many, 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 many books, right? And he touched many lives. And he had that sort of aspect where we all know his name. Like, he has this visibility. Now we can take a teacher in a school who taught classrooms for 30 years, and they're not on the shelves, the bookshelves, and we don't know that teacher's name, but 30 students, 50 students a year, every year they transformed lives in ways we don't know. Like, I can think of my daughter's 3rd grade teacher. That woman is changing lives every day, because I saw her do it with my daughter. And I saw the 4th grade. I mean, so we don't think about that aspect of the way people make an impact. We somehow want to think that the impact happens up here with the big dollars on the big stage. Everyone knows your name. The most important people that need to know your name are the ones that are in your circle of people, are the ones you touch.
And if you think about a lot of famous people, like, let's take especially actors and singers that have become well known. And a lot of them, I can recall so many times in my head, famous people that have said it was this one music teacher that encouraged them to go forward when they didn't think that they could do it.
That was them. So you can see the spark, like one tiny person whose name we don't know sparks this other person who had this enormous impact. And I think, both are valuable in the world, hugely valuable in the world. They're not, one is not more important than the other one at all.
And that happens to every person that we come in contact with. Every time that we come in contact with somebody and we give them a smile, or we give them a kind word, or we help them in some way. Like when I flew into Texas, I got my car and I was talking to this gentleman behind the counter who was having a really hard day. And everybody's yelling at him because, everybody wants their car now and whatever. And I was just like, I'm not going there. I'm going to stay calm. My flight was late. I'm late at everything. And I'm just going to keep going and enjoy the afternoon. And I said to him, how are you doing today? And he looked at me like, wow, you're asking me that. And he actually was having a really bad day.
And you changed somebody's life in that moment.
And he said, it was really a pleasure working with you, because I feel really horrible and stressed but he said this, but I chose to stay positive. And that's what we have each and every day. We have a choice to go into that again, the collective of fast, my need now kind of mentality, where if we could just go with the flow and know that we're all here just doing the best we can, that's not easy to do.
Yep. Well,
Sometimes very hard, but that makes a difference in the collective.
It does make the collective and the energy. And yeah, and it's, which goes back to your comment of like, we're not here to have, not everyone is here to have stand on a stage and make an impact in the traditional mainstream way,
right?
Writing books, being on stage, my name is known by everyone,
right?
But you are here to make an impact in certain people's lives.
And I think it's
and
being
more
at
quiet,
peace, being at peace with whatever we're here to do.
Yes,
we have to be at peace with that.
Well, it's at peace too, but also allowing yourself to allow for so many more possibilities. So the gentleman who I worked for before I went out on my own, he had a business, and he was very well known in his circles, and he wanted no publicity. He never wanted his name anywhere at all, ever. He is very wealthy, very well known, and very private. That's the opposite of Wayne Dyer, who everybody knows his name, right? I mean, highly respected, right? But completely invisible to the whole population. He still doesn't, I mean, it's not going to be his thing. Never, ever, ever. And that was a beautiful role model for me to witness and say, just be aware of, people sought him out, but he was very, very invisible. Still is. You can't find him anywhere online in any of those places, but he's I know, because I know where to look, and the people, I know how he's changed the world, but most people wouldn't know. Nobody would know, and he's happy that way.
And that's the beauty.
There's so many different ways.
Yeah, and you have to do it your way. There's nothing wrong with Wayne Dyer's way. There's nothing wrong with the teacher's way. There's nothing wrong with this gentleman's way. It's finding
what works for you.
So, yes, what makes you happy, and how do you roll? You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. I never would have thought I would be doing this, because I was not that kind of person until I started like going in and saying, what makes me happy? Well, I love to ask questions. I love to talk to people. And so you just do it. And I don't ever plan on, you go every day to go wherever it is you're supposed to go.
Yes.
That's what you do. And you do the best that you can every day. And that's all that anybody can ask for.
So true.
You know what I didn't ask you?
What'd you not ask me?
I always start my show with, what keeps you reaching for the highest you?
Oh, dude, I don't know any other way.
Oh, I love that one. I haven't heard that one yet.
I don't know any other way. I like, it is me. Like, that's probably part of my soul's journey, is to always be seeking the next highest version of me. It's just, I think that's joy for me.
And that's what we're here to do, is to have joy. And I love that. That is really, that's what we all need to be striving for.
Yeah. It's joy. And it's like choosing to be twisted up sometimes, because you know what it's like when you're doing personal growth. It's like, woo, but it's like, ooh, I want more of that. Right. Because at the other end is pretty awesome.
Yes, it is good. And as you go through this process, as we all know, you get twisted up. It's a part of the process. And I experienced that lovely thing this weekend, where what I thought to be true ended up not being true, but is true. And you're just like, you have to understand that that's a part of the growth, and that's what we're doing. And you don't get all in a tizzy about it.
Yeah. And just to be clear, so you all know, when we talk about twisted up, is she and I have a similar mentor, and we've been in her spiritual growth programs, and boy, you just can't explain what that's like at the end of one of those. So it's not like anything changed, my life is still the same, my family's still the same, but like the energy shifts show up, and just really, like, it's going to make you go down different paths in life. And that, to me, is what I'm here to do. That's what my joy is. That's what.
So what would be your, we are. Well, this
I'm
hour
like,
went
we
by
can
really
go,
fast. I know, hours. What would be, I think, your number one last tip or words of advice to people who are starting this process of entrepreneurship, or even anything new, really, to keep them in a right kind of headspace? Because you're really good at keeping people in that right headspace of not getting into their mental kind of thinking, fear, all that.
Okay, 2 tips. Simple. Yeah, your object at all times is to follow ease and joy.
Mhm.
If it feels hard or unjoyful, then don't do it.
Mhm.
And the way to know, because sometimes we get to mental process, I'm not
Mhm.
sure if this is easy or not,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Either listen for, are you really an emotional person? If you are, don't decide right now, let it settle.
Yes,
And
yes.
if you tend to kind of feel things in your body, then decide right now, even if you can't figure out why.
Right.
So those are the two tips I would give people, is follow your ease and joy and make those decisions from what are human design principles, but basically your emotions or your body, depending on which person you are.
I love that. Good tips.
Mhm.
I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I usually look at the camera because I have Zoom going, and here we were looking at each other because I'm
Kept turning
very
around a little.
connective person, so I need to do eye contact. Let me know what you think about this in-person live format. I think it's fun. I had fun.
It works this time because you were here.
I know, right?
We've done one before where we were across the
on
waves.
Zoom. So let me know what you think about this. And if you have any questions, I'm sorry I lost YouTube, so I don't know if there are any there. I will check them. But if you have any questions, please put them in the comment and like this page, share this page, put comments on the page. I will also have Judith's information on the information in the box below. And thank you all for being here. I'm going to lean forward because I have to turn this off. But thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.
Bye.